welcome to the pilot episode of the Trends in Teens podcast. I am so excited. My name is Erin, and I'm joined with Caitlin here. And we are just so excited to have you. I'll tell you right now, I'm a concerned mom when it comes to technology. And it's something that's really been on my heart a lot as my kids are getting older. I have a 13-year-old and an 11-year-old. And we're trying to navigate through this. And it's just such a valuable thing to just have a conversation, to learn about how we can best protect our kids, navigate through how to get them ready for the real world, and ask questions and talk amongst them. So I'm here with Caitlin, and Caitlin, you work with a company called remedylive, and why don't you explain remedylive?
Yeah, so remedylive is a nonprofit organization started up in Fort Wayne, Indiana as a radio station, actually. Shar Binkley, who's with WBCL, started the idea because she had grandkids who basically she wanted young, hip, Christian, positive music for her grandkids. And there weren't any radio stations out there doing that. So that's how we got started. We were an online radio station for kids. And we had teens and really people of all ages that could text in or they chatted in back in those days, AOL, instant messenger. It was about 10 years ago or so. And they would chat in with requests and song requests, and they'd just chat with the team that was at Remedy. And one day, a boy chatted in that he had OD'd on some pills. He meant to commit suicide. And as soon as he took the pills, he said, "I messed up. I need help. I am about to die. Someone please save me." And remedylive made a call. The police, as police do with teenagers, it's like, okay, how serious are they? Are they just pulling your chain? But police went out to the house. We were able to get an address from him, and we did save that guy's life. He had OD'd.
Wow.
He and his mom then went to the radio station and toured, but that's how remedylive got started. Today, we are a 24/7 chat-based chat center. We mostly talk with teens and young adults, but we're really there for people of all ages. It's text to chat or web chat. And we, of course, our focus was first on suicide, depression, and anxiety, but it now just covers so many topics from physical and emotional and sexual abuse that people have been through or are going through, and we're able to help them through that, to depression, to addiction. And addiction can be porn, it can be addiction to technology, it can be drug addiction. I mean, the addiction to technology is huge these days.
Absolutely.
But as we served these teens and young adults, our executive director, Clinton Foppel, who helped found remedylive, he realized what a need there was for parents as well, to equip parents to help their teens or their children grow into their teenage years so that some of the issues that we chat about won't be issues by the time that they're teenagers, that they know how to deal with technology in a healthy way and they know how to use it in the right way. And so that's how Trends in Teens started. It was a workshop that he would just go and speak at churches that booked him. He still does that for us, for Remedy and for Trends in Teens. But this is kind of the next step, is to do a podcast.
Yes, absolutely. Being able to come into your car, your living room, your kitchen, and listen to something that you can even rewind and listen to again, or listen to with your spouse, or listen to with your kids, is a different kind of thing than the workshops where it's a one-time event. And hopefully we can get into some just situational type stuff. We've got a lot of exciting things coming up that we've talked about. So remedylive, just to kind of just go back with what you were saying, remedylive does also Get Schooled tours.
Yes.
And that's what Clinton Foppel does as well. He goes to different schools, and the Get Schooled tour will bring in counselors. That's the word I was looking for. Counselors. And it helps us just get a good pulse of what's going on, because we have kind of texter, is it called
Texter Active?
Okay.
Yeah.
And so it allows for real-time data to come back in, and it's anonymous, which I think is why we get some honest answers.
Yes.
But we're allowed and able to kind of get a glimpse of what's going on in different schools. How many kids have contemplated suicide? How many kids have, issues with addictions? And what it helps the kids to see is that they're not alone. And it helps us to see what is going on with trends and teens. And so we're coming to you from that baseline, and hoping to just start in on this conversation. Like I said before, I'm a concerned mom. We've definitely made some mistakes when it comes to what we've done with technology and our kids, and we're still learning. And this conversation is an important one because as I've started to kind of get into helping a little bit more with trends and teens, I think that with Facebook, people have started to realize they could come to me and ask me questions. Mm-hmm. And I was telling Caitlin that it seems to be three main things that parents just have concerns about, or reasons why they haven't started this conversation about technology. One of the things that I hear a lot is that it's just too overwhelming, I don't even know where to start.
I'm so not tech savvy.
Yes. Oh, I hear that all the time. Yeah. I don't know anything about technology, and neither does my husband. What are we supposed to do about this?
It's just overwhelming.
It's just overwhelming. And so, we live in a day and age where, at least for my kids, they come home with technology from school. So we can't stick our heads in the sand, metaphorically, and pretend it's not happening, or completely clear electronics away from us. As parents, we need to raise our kids for the world around them, and this is the world around them right now, whether we like it or not. And we can use technology for good if we just figure out how to do that. Yes. So yeah, that too overwhelming one, I hear it all the time, and I understand. I'll get a question and I'm like, I don't know. and I'll think that's too overwhelming. But, we've got to just get into it. We've got to dive into it. So the second one that I hear oftentimes, and I understand this so well, is they just feel guilty. Parents just feel guilty. And a lot of times what will happen is, at least back in the day, iPods were a lot more of a thing than iPhones. Now everybody gets an iPhone, and I think people think that iPhones are way more dangerous than iPods. But in reality, they're about the same thing. The things that make an iPhone dangerous are the exact same things on an iPod. But, Grandma and Grandpa gave, Junior an iPod for Christmas, and it was just there. And
it was just music.
Yeah, parents just thought it's music. Yeah. They didn't realize the whole internet was on it. And, so kids stumbled on something that they, parents didn't want them to see, some sort of pornography or whatever. And then parent realizes that their kid is in so far and they didn't have any clue. And mom guilt comes in. I mean, I understand that 100%. What did I do wrong? What could I have done better? I'm so embarrassed by this. I don't even want to tell anybody. And I know Clinton's even mentioned before that the text chat, moms have called in or not called in, texted in and said, my son's addicted to pornography. I had no clue. What do I do from here?
Yeah. Well, and that mom guilt.
Yeah.
It's almost a key coin or a keyword phrase right there. I don't have children. I'm here because I know the stories that we hear, the real and the raw confessions, basically, of kids sharing their secret struggles with us. But mom guilt is something I don't think of. I hear mom shaming all the time, but that mom guilt, I mean, you kind of talked about a little bit there, but yeah, that's scary. And it's almost like, how do you avoid even getting to the mom guilt?
Right. And once you have it, then that's why I think the guiltiness or the having to confess, I made a mistake with my kids. I let them do this. It's almost too much because they're concerned about the mom shaming, right? Because that's the culture we live in.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. This is a place where we are not judging you. We are not saying this is what you're doing wrong. This is what you need to do right. We just have some tools and we want to just put that word out. And I, as a mom, can tell you right now, I have made so many mistakes. If my kids turn out okay, it is just because the Lord has blessed them, not because of me. But the mom guilt comes back down to then the third thing that I was saying I feel a lot is an excuse from parents that I hear. And it's, but if I don't let him have an Instagram, he's going to hate me. He's going to be so mad at me. He's not, he won't even talk to me. And I've heard that almost that's the majority of it. Parents are very concerned that their kids are going to be just mad at them about it. And I had a friend the other day telling me, my daughter says she's the only one of all of her friends that doesn't have Musical.ly.
Every kid says that.
And every
kid be the only one to not have it?
Yeah. Now I say, well, they know my kids and my kids don't have the social media, so it's not everybody, But it's just that feeling. And I understand. I'm a mom. I want my kids to be happy, healthy, feel included, have friends, all of those things. So I understand that's a little bit of the mom guilt that kids know how to prey on. Kids know how to just remind you of what they'll be without. And somehow
they are just suffering without what their
so
friends
tricky.
have.
They're so tricky. I love them so much, but they're so tricky.
Well, and it's so funny to me, those 3 points. We've been on a Dave Ramsey kick, me and my husband, the last month with student loan debt and just managing our money in a healthy way.
Yeah.
But it's so funny, those 3 points are almost exactly how people feel about money.
Yes.
The guilt, I'm too deep in now. Like, they've had their phone for 3 years. I can't take it away from them now, or I can't change the rules on them now.
Yes.
That's just not fair.
Right.
Well, and I guess one of my favorite responses is, it's going to be hard.
Yeah.
But how are you going to do any better if you don't face the hard stuff? Like, sometimes it's terrible and it sounds mean, but you got to get over it and do it.
Yeah.
I know I feel that way when it comes to my job sometimes. It's the work you don't want to do, the conversations you don't want to have. They're going to be awkward and difficult, but how much worse is it going to be if you don't have it and you don't do it? And I guess that's a question for me. I'm not a mom. I just chat and I see the chats of these kids. Do you feel that social awkwardness with your kids? Because I think back to, I grew up, I had 3 siblings, I had 2 parents in the house, and I never really had the social awkwardness of having a tough conversation with my sister or my dad or my mom.
Okay.
But is there a social awkwardness of, okay, what if they, and maybe this is a little bit of what you touch on, but what if they don't like me after this conversation? What if they're mad at me? What if I embarrass myself in front of my kids? Is that a fear from your mom or any parents?
Well, maybe for some moms. My personality is such. My poor kids kind of just roll their eyes at me, but in a good way, I think. You touched on, I guess, kind of to answer your question. This probably sheds a little bit light of what kind of parent I am, for good or bad, right? I'm just putting myself out here. But you touched on something being not fair. And the words not fair, my kids know, don't you ever say that in my house. Because a long time ago, I was over I wanted the green cup. You never let me have, those kind of things. Or why is she getting to have a sleepover and I'm not? Or, whatever it is, the sibling stuff. That's not fair. And at the very beginning, at least very early on, I probably should have done it earlier. I said, aren't you so lucky life's not fair? Aren't you so lucky? And, really sat down and said, you are, and we come from a religious background, and you don't have to be a religious person to listen to this, but I'm just going to say what our beliefs are. You are a sinner, and you are saved by grace, and that is not fair, but it is the best thing that ever could have happened. So when you tell me life's not fair, you're so lucky that it's not. You're so fortunate that life's not fair, right?
Yeah.
And I don't want to hear about the trivial things because we're so lucky. And it's just that mindset. And I get it too. I'll see a neighbor have a brand new car and I'll think, well, that's not fair. And I have to check myself because really? I have a great car that runs wonderfully. It's fine. And so it's just that mindset change. But I so wanted to just speak to that because of what you said about the not fair. And, and even with our kids, we live in modern day America where so many of us are so fortunate. We have homes. We have a place to sleep at night.
Yeah.
And, the whole idea that our friends have stuff that we don't have and that's not fair. Well, let's just go back and remember, aren't we so lucky that life's not fair? So I wanted to speak to that. And then I think along those same lines, that probably shows a lot of who I am as a mom because my kids know that I'm like tough, do the hard stuff, I'm probably a little bit more on the just get up and do it kind of. But along those same lines, I have found that I will also enter into conversations that my kids are like, why are we talking about this? Why are we talking about this? But I want them to know nothing is off limits. And I'll be honest, between me and my husband, I'm the one that reacts. That's just my normal. And I'm the one that's like, what? you did, how, and
yeah.
my husband is the one that's calm, cool, collected, and he can say like, okay, he gives me the really annoying but really smart, like, just, he gives me the look of just calm down, let's see what they have to say. And it does help me go, okay, what's the most important here? The most important is that I continue to have a relationship with my son. I continue to have a relationship with my daughter, and I want them to know they can come to me. And how else are they going to do it if I'm not flying off the handle? So I think that's where the awkward, I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah, it did.
Okay.
Well, and I know that there's so many parent types out there too. Of course, you're explaining yours. You're a straightforward, this is the way it is parent.
My poor kids.
And that's okay. I grew up with a mom that way, and I learned to be more straightforward because she was that way. But I know there are the moms out there that are a little more shy and timid around their kids, whether it's because they want their approval or because they're just not a more outgoing or straightforward
family
person.
Of origin was like that.
Exactly.
Sure.
Yeah. So, and I think that's going to be huge as we go through the Trends in Teens podcast and talk about all these different topics of, okay, here's how one mom will handle it. Here's another way. And I say mom, it can be parents.
Absolutely.
I know it's generally moms that get together and talk about this stuff
Sure.
or who will probably be listening to this podcast. But to see how the different approaches can be made for the different personality types and the different family types.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I want to talk a little bit, just give a little bit of review as we go into further episodes. I'm going to be bringing a lot of statistics and knowledge from a book called iGen by, I believe it's Jean M. Twenge. I think that's how you say her name. But
Twenge.
Yes. Yep. She has been doing basically studies on the iGen generation, the technology generation from 1991 to I believe 2015. I think that's the time frame that she's been working with study groups and having teens as they grow and working with these teens, asking them questions, getting a feel for where they're at in life. And her studies range all over from screen time to mental health, depression, loneliness that they're feeling, social media and how it's impacting, how involved these kids are with politics as they grow up, the way that kids are aging more slowly, and not physically, but mentally and emotionally. Kids are, and we haven't talked about this at all, but kids are less likely to go get a driver's license when they're 16. They don't care. They don't need one. We know that generations aren't getting married as early. They're not leaving the house as soon. And all these different factors, she basically has done studies on and how technology has affected that, how it affects our mental health state. And at Remedy Live, we're big on the mental health field because of the topics that we deal with. We're blessed to have board members who are experts in that field and that guide us on best practices and how to chat as well. And maybe we'll have some of them guest hosts here on the Trends in Teen podcast.
Hint, hint.
Yeah. But we're really planning on covering tons of topics, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
All those things, social media, talking to your kids, video games, which we talked about this a little bit earlier before we hit record here. Video games used to be, I'm playing Zelda or Mario Kart. Okay, I'll just press pause real quick, do my chore, come back. Video games are now a social experience.
Yeah.
It's not just 10 people in a room playing together. It is now 10 people, 15 people online from different countries talking to one another as they play.
Right.
And it's definitely going to be its own episode because there's so much to cover there and what's out there and what has changed.
Yeah, and even so many apps that you don't realize have a social component to it that do. I mentioned Minecraft earlier. So getting into that conversation is a great one. Yeah, I mean, we have our episodes lined out, and we're so excited about some of them. Just to dive in more specifically on them, we are hoping to have every now and then some teens come on and just chat with us about their experience. I'd love to have a round table of moms come in at some point. So there's just so many options here. And we'd love for you to just continue to listen and learn with us. Looking forward, episode 2 is going to be, just the kind of fundamentals, the basics of, so you bought your kid a phone, now what? And what that looks like. So, just how to start the conversations if you are married with your spouse, with other people who are parental type figures in your kids' lives, and how to put parameters on your kid in terms of what it looks like to have a phone. That would include doing a cell phone contract. That would include just some safety measures that you can set up in your house or on the phone, on the device. I think those are called like parental controls. Yeah, so we're looking forward to that in episode 2. And then do you want to talk about episode 3?
Well, I want to go back to episode 2 really fast.
Oh, yeah, it's really exciting.
This might be foreign to some of you. When we say cell phone contracts, we're not talking about you bought a new phone through AT&T or Verizon.
Good point here.
Not meaning to brand or promote, but it's not a physical company contract. It's a parent to child contract of what the rules are with the phone.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of parents that negotiate these contracts of what they think, what they believe is fair, and they have the child speak into what they think is fair. So they both get their views and opinions put into the contract. I know some parents who are like, oh, no, I'm the parent. Here's the contract. And these are the rules.
Sure.
But putting it on paper is so different. Signing your name is so different than just, here's a phone. I'll let you know the rules as we go. Or I'll make up my mind as we go. Setting those boundaries to start with.
Yeah. Well, and it makes you have to have those conversations, and it's almost a good platform to start the conversation.
Yeah.
In general, I've seen there's like online, you can just, type in parental contract and things will come up, and it's just a good starting base. But I really like what you said too. We want our kids to feel equipped. We want our kids to feel like they have a voice. And this is a perfect opportunity to let them have that if you feel comfortable doing that, and then sticking to it. Yes. So yeah, getting into
how to stick to it. Yeah,
which is hard. It is. I understand.
Yeah. Well, then a lot of you guys might also be thinking, what the, like, this is way too extreme. What is so dangerous about a cell phone? It's not that big of a deal. Sure. All the kids these days have one and are doing it. So what is really the point of this podcast? It's not that bad out there. For some people, it's not. And that's great. They are very safe online. They are very careful. But I think with this podcast and Trends in Teens, the whole purpose is that some kids don't know how to set those boundaries themselves. And that's what parents are for, is to help set guidelines and boundaries and grow them and raise them, literally raise them to know how to adult, which is now a verb.
Yes, it is.
So the dangers are the apps that you can join that have, you post a picture of yourself so that people can comment on, rank you on how pretty you are and if they would do you or not. It's really, literally, those are apps out there that 12-year-olds can get on. And all you have to do is lie about the year you were born.
Oh, yeah.
It's that easy.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And of course, social media. And I guess that's episode 3 is talking about social media, the dangers that are out there. Let me pull out some statistics here really fast from this iGen book.
Yeah.
Because it blows my mind. I'm young and hip and I use a lot of technology, but even I didn't realize how unpopular Facebook is.
Yeah.
In 2015, so again, this was years ago when this study was concluded. So you can imagine how the numbers have grown. But in 2015, 14-year-olds, that's who was always using Facebook. Only 30% of 14-year-olds use Facebook anymore.
Wow.
It's seen as the parents and the grandparents' social media.
I don't see any kids
it's
joining.
It's the old person's social media
the old
platform.
Person. Yeah.
80% use Instagram monthly and 79 are on Snapchat. I personally have never used Snapchat. I learned very early on in its Snapchat days how dangerous it could be.
Yeah.
How people think, it goes away, it's okay. It's there are so many articles and cheats on how to save and do a screenshot without someone knowing that you're screenshotting their content that they put on Snapchat.
Yeah.
If all this sounds foreign to you, go look up Snapchat. It's basically a temporary messaging system of video messages you can send back and forth. And teens think they go away, but they don't just go away.
Yeah.
Instagram, of course. Now we have Insta stories. It used to be you just post a picture with a little caption or, some text with it. But now it's Insta stories that also disappear after a certain period of time. But there's just so many dangers to social media, so many ways, especially with girls, that they compare themselves to others, how kids are feeling lonely and left out. And it's such a big conversation to be had, but we're going to try to at least start with one episode and then we'll go deeper after that. But
absolutely.
Episode 3 will be social media and stranger danger. And
and even things you don't realize, you mentioned Instagram. A lot of people don't realize that if a person is looking at Instagram, and even if they have the Safari part of their phone turned off, if they have Instagram and Instagram has a web address, somebody posts a cute picture of themselves and they have a web address, if you click on the web address, it will still open up a browser.
Yeah.
And I think people just don't realize that. They think that if they have the Safari turned off, they do. And so it's just things like that we would love to just inform and, and just have that conversation.
Yeah.
Because parents, we're doing this all together.
Yes.
We have to learn at the same rate, if possible, that technology is changing. And that seems impossible, but a little bit of tools in your back pocket will be so helpful. So yeah, those are the next 2 episodes. Episode 2, so you bought your kid a phone. Episode 3, social media. Honestly, I feel like social media could be episode 4, 5, and 6. But we'll dive into it. We'll set that base, and then we can return back to it later.
And like you said, the whole purpose is to educate parents, to have those open and honest conversations with their kids. And it doesn't have to be teenagers. I know people in 4th, 3rd grade who are getting their kids cell phones.
Absolutely.
Kids are coming home with iPads and those e-learning devices.
Yep.
And they're not necessarily locked down. They don't have parental controls.
No.
It's the school who sets them up, and who knows what the school knows or has put into place. So we're really here just to educate all of our listeners, to help them get a little bit more information, a few more tools to help them just do the right thing when it comes to technology and their children.
And let's be honest, this is a great podcast to listen to with your kids, because I think my kids kind of say, but what really is so bad? What really is, we talk a lot. I don't know if I've even mentioned it earlier in this podcast, but I always say to my kids, we don't know what we don't know. And so this could be a podcast to listen to as a family and say, did you realize that this is something that you can do?
Yep.
Because I think kids in general, they don't want to get into a dangerous situation. They just don't know how to navigate. And let's be honest, kids in that age, where they're starting to get phones, they don't want to ask their parents for help all the time. They want to figure it out on their own. But that's just, it might not be an option at this point. And so this could be a great podcast for families to listen to share with somebody where your kids are going over to their house all the time. And you want to be able to have this conversation. It's a little bit scary or nerve-wracking. Hey, listen to this podcast.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's more of I found this great podcast. It's helping me so much in being a great mom or a great dad. You should listen to it sometime. And hey, all of a sudden you have a group of parents having the same rules for their kids.
Absolutely.
I think you mentioned earlier, if your kids are ever like, well, I'm the only one who doesn't have it, you can say, well, I know so-and-so doesn't have it either.
Right.
Because we decided together not to do it.
Yeah, I always think of the term, I feel like I see it on T-shirts and on hats anymore, mama bear. But I think, why are we not like a group of moms mama bearing all together when it comes to this,
Yes.
And I know there's papa bears too and grandpa bears and whatever, but mama bear is, I will fight to protect my cubs. And that is what we need to do. I will fight to protect my children and have them arrive where they need to arrive when it comes to technology in a safe, thought out way. And
yes. Yeah.
That's why we're here to do this.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
If you guys have questions or comments, if you have topics you would really love to hear us chat about or bring some knowledge to, you can email us at info@remedylive.com. Subject line Trends and Teens podcast would help me out. So I know right away, hey, they would have a question or a comment. Again, that's info@remedylive.com. And then, of course, we're on Facebook. Because we're not 14, so we still use Facebook.
I'm actually the opposite of 14.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome. So just Trends and Teens on Facebook. And you can find us, drop us some comments, leave some messages. We're producing this as audio podcasts going out. We're posting the videos on our website, YouTube links. We're just putting this out there. We want everyone to know about it and to know what's going on and to have the tools they need.
I'm so excited.
Yeah. So thank you guys so much for joining us today.
Well, Caitlin, before you go, there was one other thing that we were going to talk about, and it was just that we wanted to share. You talked about if you had questions or whatever, you could do the email.
Oh, yes.
If you have something that is really important right now, that is a big concern, a mental health crisis, anything like that, that is where our Remedy Live hotline comes in with the being able to text.
Yes.
And we wanted to put that out too. If you need something right now, and you want to talk, there are soul medics that are available to talk with you 24/7. And all you need to do is text 494949, and it'll immediately start the conversation. It's anonymous, and we've seen so much value in that. So I just wanted to make sure that that's out there too.
Yeah, I'm going to throw out a quick story.
Yes, please.
This is not a one-time event that this has happened. This has happened multiple times. We've gotten this story where a young kid, a teenager, typically middle school, high school age, is on social media helping a friend struggling with suicide or depression. And via Snapchat or Instagram, that friend has posted them trying to kill themselves or them self-harming. And luckily, some parents are involved enough that they find out about it, or the kid is open enough that they'll talk to their parents about it. A lot of times it doesn't happen until after the attempt is made or after the post is posted, whether it be self-harm or a suicide attempt. But if you're a parent experiencing that, or you have a kid that has experienced that, again, this is a great opportunity. You can jump in our chat. We have some resources we can always offer you. We have recommendations if you want your kid to be able to talk to someone, because that's trauma for your son or daughter, not just the person who posted it and attempted. That's trauma for your son or daughter who's been talking to them about that and then sees that on social media as well.
Absolutely.
And that's trauma for you as a parent.
Yeah.
Vicarious trauma. You're experiencing that trauma through someone else, you know? So yeah, text in. You can also go to remedylive.com and walk through it's a web chat process that way. But yeah, text in the number 494949, keyword remedy, and there is someone 24/7 that is available to chat with you.
Love that.
Yeah.
That's
All right.
huge.
Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Erin, for coming in today and doing this podcast.
Yep.
And we are so excited for you to join us for the next couple episodes. And again, just send us your questions and comments. But thank you so much.
Thanks. Have a good day.